We are live with Bridget Danner. And if you are curious about functional medicine practicing and you are curious about mold toxic, this is the perfect timing to listen to this podcast and watch it on YouTube. Be with us till the end, and you can join us if you have any other questions. Welcome to my show, Bridget. I'm very impressed with your work. And as soon as I saw you in functional medicine course, I said, I have to talk to her.
Oh,
That's
thank
so
you.
much.
I'm so excited to be here
Yeah.
and get to know you.
So for you, my audience, she's licensed acupuncture and certified functional diagnostic practitioner. And we're going to go through toxic mold as hidden health threat because the toxic mold is the cause for many diseases these days. So welcome, and please introduce yourself for my audience, and yeah, we go from here.
Sure. My name is Bridget Danner. I live in Arizona, but I practiced as an acupuncturist before coming here for 13 years in Oregon, which is also where I was slowly getting poisoned by toxic mold. So I sort of was growing my practice and my expertise, but also really having to work on my own health, which I didn't know there was mold involved for many years. So I was learning functional medicine, changing my diet, doing all these things, which would kind of work, but ultimately none of it will really work if you're still living in a toxic home. So I'm glad I developed all those tools. And then when I found that out, I really had to develop a bunch more knowledge about detox.
So many of us know that we have some problem in our body, and when we go to functional medicine labs, there are some toxic molds, like it's gonna be resulted in our labs, and we don't know what's happening, and we are really surprised because some people have the clean house, apparently it's clean as you see it, but it's not. I mean, there are some molds involved. So I really want to know how do we have to concern about this mold and how we can discover it in different parts of our house home.
Yeah, that's a really great question. So, in my home, I'll just use that as an example first. We were in an old home, like 100 years old, rainy climate, humid climate. Um, but that was sort of how everybody is living there, right? It wasn't like we were in an unusual situation. All our neighbors were in the same situation. But I think what we didn't realize as sort of new homeowners, kind of first time homeowners, is awareness about drainage, for one thing. Humidity, like we had a basement and we weren't managing the humidity. And then the thing that really we didn't know was that some additions to the home and windows in the home hadn't been installed correctly. So there was leaking in those areas inside the walls that we couldn't see. There was also some in the attic. I can't remember if we had like a little roof problem. We had a lot of problems once we found out about it. So it can be construction issues. It can be a plumbing leak, right? A lot of people have had a burst pipe or like a washing machine issue, refrigerator issue, anywhere that there's moisture interacting with the home, whether it's ambient moisture from humidity, but probably more often from damage to the home or, a plumbing error. Anytime there's water interacting with wood and drywall and carpet, all these substances, it creates an environment where mold can grow. And unlike in the forest where there's lots of things competing and decaying and growing, your house is a much different environment. It's a kind of a controlled environment. And if, say, you have this little chronic wet area, there isn't any competition for mold there. And it can just grow. And not every mold is toxic, but some are. And I don't know why it seems like the toxic ones really do well in our homes, but they often do. And not everyone's going to feel the same health effect, but that chronic, so toxic mold emits these things called mycotoxins, and they emit some other dangerous things too, like VOCs. But they're just there emitting it, doing their thing. And over time, some people more than others can be affected by that chronic environmental stress. So, to go back to your question about how do we check the home, I think you can think about, is it humid where you live? Is there been any water damage? Do you inspect your own home for the gutters, the roof, the drainage? Are those things you've considered? Have you felt worse in the home? Is there any smells in the home? Any visible mold? You can kind of do an inspection. Any wet areas, like in the bathroom, under the kitchen sink. So there are some, basic places to start about inspection. But yeah, not every home looks like it's got a problem. So I think, especially if you've been dealing with chronic symptoms in your own health or your kids or whatever, and you feel like you've tried everything, that's how I was doing everything. Then think about this as an issue. We have more information to dive into this further if you think it could be your case.
Yeah, that's so interesting. Yeah, I love to talk about it more. But before going to home inspection stuff, um, I saw there are some products we use, like shampoo or detergent or whatever else for cleaning. These products have some issues. How can we discover the issue in these products?
Yeah, so another source of toxicity within the home is toxicants, so man-made chemicals that we bring into our home through basically everything, right? Even like if you buy a new television or a new computer, it's got like different toxicants coming out of it from the manufacturing process and the plastics and stuff like that. And then with beauty products, with cleaning products, yeah, that some of them are, just very strong, potent. You can smell it. And you just start with the smell. I really focus with beauty and cleaning products on fragrance, right? So we don't need artificial fragrance to smell good or have our house be clean, but it's in a lot of products. And just the word fragrance, when you see that on a label, or parfum, is artificial. And it's a whole cocktail of chemicals. And one of them is a phthalate. It's called a phthalate, which helps the fragrance linger. And that's an endocrine disruptor. So that's just one little micro example of all the many things that could be going on. There's also can be heavy metals in your beauty products and different things like that. But luckily now there's like a lot of natural options, tons, right? You can certainly make, in the old, I don't know, maybe 20 years ago, you had to make all your own natural stuff, which you can totally do. But a lot of people don't really want to put that time in, including me. So you just need to find brands that are fragrance free, and they may say other things on them like free of parabens or free of other things. Mostly I use fragrance as a gold standard because some products will say, well, we're free of this or that, but then you go on the back and it still has fragrance. And to me, that's a company that's just sort of doing lip service to being natural, but they still want their fragrance to linger because that's branding. So we call that greenwashing. It's like giving the impression that it's a natural product, but it's not really a completely natural product. So it needs to either be fragrance free or scented with essential oils to fit that category, which is it's a pretty easy thing to do. I don't know why companies, are so attached to fragrance. But yeah, that's a good one to look at. There's a lot of good brands now. I think you can do your research. Just a couple I like Seventh Generation brand. I like Beauty Counter for beauty products. Dr. Hauschka skincare is like a really nice high-end beauty product. So it can take a little bit to replace these things because you have to find a new brand, right? But it's not the end of the world, and you don't have to do it all at once. And whether you're, struggling with fatigue, or you can't lose weight, or headaches, or you've already had mold illness, like you're probably I mean, we're all chemically sensitive to an extent. Um, so I think it's just an important way to clean our environment. Like many of your listeners have improved their diet, right? And then you have to think also about the environment of your home, and yeah, what your body is touching and encountering all over your home.
That's so interesting. Yeah. Because there are lots of things that you can't say. Is there any website or anything that we can go through this and see if this shampoo is healthy enough to use? Or
Yeah, that's a great question. So there are some different apps. I don't know if I'm going to remember all the names of them, but I do remember the name of one website, which you probably know is the Environmental Working Group offers one called Skin Deep, and you can look up a product on there, and see how it's rated, like how much kind of toxicant load is in there. So that's great. They've even started. I haven't seen this, but I know they were starting to actually have like on some bottles like Environmental Working Group certified or something like that. I don't see that coming out yet much. Um, but yeah, I think, when you see that whole long list of ingredients on the back, it can be overwhelming. I mean, if it's a
yes,
basic,
yes.
like Head and Shoulders, Pantene, whatever, you can guarantee it's
It's
not
so
natural.
tiny. How can we read it, Bridget? It needs a very strong eyes to read
Oh, I
all the
know, it's so
ingredients.
small, right? Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. So I almost feel like, I mean, you can kind of learn a few key ingredients. That's why I focus on fragrance. That's an easy one to read. But I think better to kind of learn the brands. And if you're learning and researching, you're going to start getting ads on Instagram and stuff for like different clean brands, and you'll just start getting a sense of like their education and what they leave out of formulas.
Bridget, I know you have a background in acupuncture, um, and you're not practicing acupuncture anymore, but there should be a reason you switch back to functional medicine. I know about the acupuncture because it's for my pregnancy. I use acupuncture. It really helped me. And the thing I loved in acupuncture, traditional Chinese medicine, was the view of the whole body. They go through, they don't diagnose, oh, you have this problem, but they go through the body to see if they have liver issue or anything. And not sure if you integrated with functional medicine, that you said you didn't, but I just want to know the motivation why you switched to functional medicine, and what did you learn about acupuncture in between?
Yeah, I mean, it's a great question. I think it's a really interesting story too. So, I got into Chinese medicine because I was an environmentalist and I wanted to do something natural. And I was sort of getting into that lifestyle when I was, in my early 20s. Um, and it's amazing. Like sometimes people are like, why did you stop doing it? It's really more about my schedule and what I want with my life than that I think it doesn't work. Like it completely works. It's really wonderful. I had a lot of great relationships. And I think it's awesome to have a relationship with an acupuncturist because it's usually like an ongoing relationship, right? Like it's sort of the relationship we want with our doctor that we don't really get. So someone to talk and check in and like, have you been doing your back exercises? Like, have you been like managing your stress? And at least that's how I practice. It was very, like, I would do a lot of talk about like lifestyle and stuff. And then it's very relaxing to the body. It positively influences different organ systems. It's great for pain. I definitely treated just a ton of pain because it's most known for that here in the US. So I definitely treated a lot of pain. But I was definitely getting into other aspects of life. And like I mentioned earlier, I wasn't feeling well enough, right? So I learned in my schooling a little bit about diet. It was very old fashioned because, Chinese medicine is very ancient. So now we're in this modern world with just like chemicals and EMF and chronic stress and blue light. And none of those things existed when Chinese medicine was around. So it can still benefit the modern human. Like our bodies are the same. But like say toxic mold, like there's nothing in the body of Chinese medicine to help you fix your home or check your home or do any of that. So there's just some things you need to know about, I think, in the modern world that weren't a part of that ancient world. So yes, it can still very much help you. I think it's a great tool. I think for my own health, I had to look out elsewhere and try to figure out what else was going on with me. So before I found mold, I was finding out about gut infections and cortisol and the adrenals. And I'm glad I learned all that. Ultimately, I mean, I had other stressors in my life, but ultimately, mold was lighting up all those different things. But I'm glad I learned about those. Then I learned about mold and how it kind of creates an environment for all those things. So, and then why I didn't totally mix them is I was taking insurance as an acupuncturist and I was running this like neighborhood clinic and we had chiropractors and massage therapists. So it was like I was changing, but the thing we were doing was staying the same. So it was sort of like I needed to start fresh to start something completely new. And for me, one of my other stressors was running this clinic for 10 years. That was, I had like 10 people working for me and I was working late and seeing clients late, working on Saturdays. And it just wasn't supportive for my own health. So as we decided to move away from Oregon, because of mold, I was also really ready to be done with that clinic. So I sold that clinic and then just work online doing more of this functional medicine and really like education around mold and toxicity and detox. And I think just for me in my personal journey, like that's what I'm supposed to be doing. I probably have friends from school who will do acupuncture for life, and that's amazing. Um, it just like was time for me to do something else.
And you're doing amazing. I saw all the
Oh,
courses,
thank you.
everything there. And about the functional medicine in yourself, what did you learn? You said you had gut issue, or what
I had
else?
everything. Yeah. I had Hashimoto's, I had parasites, I had candida, I had leaky gut, I had like low mucosa levels, I had Epstein-Barr. Um, I've never tested for Lyme, but I wouldn't be surprised if I had some Lyme in there. Um, I had, yeah, adrenal issues, low hormone production, just really everything. I mean, I was in that moldy house for 8 or 9 years, and plus I was running this clinic and I was a new mom and blah blah blah, and just a lot of my systems were just deteriorating. So being exposed to those mycotoxins, if your body can't remove them and process them, it creates chronic inflammation all over your brain, your organs. um, so, I wasn't sleeping well. I wasn't remembering things. My periods were off. I was in chronic pain, like just the whole laundry list of symptoms. And then later, as I studied functional medicine, I had a whole laundry list of diagnoses too, which is pretty common because often by the time people realize they have mold or they have Lyme or whatever, I'm sure you've seen this too with what you've studied. Yeah, it's created a lot of weakness in the body where infections can kind of thrive. And so not only do you have to deal with mold, you have to unwind all these other things that have developed, and that takes time.
Yes. Bridget, I see you have a website, bridgetdanner.com. What do you have there? And you also have a Facebook group. And I saw your book. You have a book, right?
Yeah,
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 yeah.
it's
So,
just
yeah.
about to come on Amazon. Yeah.
Oh, it's not published yet?
It's not published yet. We're just
Oh, I
finishing the
see.
last couple things, but it'll be up for pre-order on Amazon a few days from now. We also, excuse me, we have a toxic mold free event online that's kind of come out with the book. So I'm interviewing like 25 different experts in the field of mold. That's free. You can find that on our site. Yeah, as soon as the book is ready, we'll have that up as well. And then we have a lot of freebies about mold and hormones and brain health. Just kind of, as you know, functional medicine is so broad. So we have different free ebooks if people are interested in different topics.
So her website, because it's gonna go to podcasts and my audience also listen to this. BridgetDanner.com, BridgitDanner.com. And yeah, it's a great resource if you are finding some chronic issues in your body. You may have some toxic mold issues because you don't know. You have to go and check it and be careful about your health because you can compensate it with anything else.
Yes, exactly. Yeah, and we talked about a little bit about the home, but there's also testing available for the body. There's testing for the home and body now. So luckily, a lot of technology, I guess you could say, is coming along to learn more about this. So you're not just like, well, maybe I have this. I guess I'll just rip up my whole house. Like you can find out for sure if you have it in your home and body, and then work towards lowering those levels and changing everything.
In my practice as a fertility coach, also, I see toxic is a really disruptor, like hormone disruptor in women. And that's why I try to look at those disruptor as well, because reproductive function needs lots of balancing, and even with the diet is not enough, as you said. We need to go through that one too.
Yeah, and mold can be a huge hormone disruptor for men and women. I mean, generally, it's either going to lower all your hormone levels or you can have estrogen dominance. Those are the kind of two directions it's going to go in. And as you know, neither of those are good for fertility. So it can affect like sperm quality, and it's kind of like the strength of your. One of my chronic symptoms was breakthrough bleeding, and that happened to me for years. And that's no good for fertility. Um, interestingly, I had conceived my son like just right before all this kind of got going. Um, but yeah, like later after I had my son, I was really struggling hormonally, emotionally, and I really think a lot of the emotional part was the inflammation in my brain. So yeah, if you're a woman listening and you're like trying to conceive, or a man listening, but let's be honest, it's probably a woman listening. Um, just think about that as a possible cause. Like, please just at least consider it. And as you know, there's a lot of different potential causes, but I would just, it's so hard to be waiting and waiting to get pregnant. So I'd hate for someone to not know about that potential cause if it is affecting them.
Thank you so much, Bridget, for being here. And if you have any last word to tell us, any inspiration word about the health, please let us know.
I guess my last thing is just always just keep looking. If you're still having symptoms or not getting the results you want, just keep looking for a solution. I think the reward comes to the people who do that. So it can be frustrating and you can feel like you've already spent money and da da da. Just work through those feelings and then keep learning. I think solutions will come to you, like when you're aligned to find them. It may be on a podcast, and it may be from a friend or from a book, but that's kind of how I went. I just kept kind of taking in information and looking. And me and many of my clients and friends are like success stories that you can get to the other side, even if you feel like you've looked at everything. There's going to be something you find with your persistence that will help you.
Thank you so much, Bridget. I wish you a lot of luck in your practice.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
Yeah. Please subscribe to Untitled Transition channel to get the latest interviews and order my book PTSD Compass through Amazon. How to confront PTSD and navigate trauma to triumph.